Yeah, the vitamin E actually can go rancid in it. So you're real, you can, it's not super fast, but if you're going to do it, you have to keep it in a very airtight container. But it's best to buy them whole, like throw in and grind them yourself and use them. Yeah.
They just never bring them.
Quite as much as you.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a Vitamix or a Ninja?
No.
So that'll be a difference maker too. If you have one of those, the Ninja ones are a lot more affordable, but they still do a great job of doing that. So,
What do you think of the NutriBullet?
they're good too. Yeah, definitely.
That's very good.
All right, guys, we're going to get started. So, thanks for being here, and those that are watching us via our live feed as well. Tonight we're dealing with a topic and the topic is health from within. And so it's going to have a lot of focus on gut health because that's where so much of this stuff stems from. But also just the concept itself of that's how healing happens. So it's an inside job, as we like to say. When we try to continually influence things just from an outside-in perspective, a lot of times it causes us problems. And so we want to kind of get some of that baseline stuff of what can we do to keep our healing and our functioning in top shape. So change slides. I literally just checked this and it changed slides. Let's try it again. Change slides. There it is. Look at that. So about us, most of you guys know us, but I've been in practice for just over 20 years now. I'm certified in the 5 Essentials. I've been doing the Max Living stuff for, like 15 years almost. And we've gone through multiple different levels of certification, and it really kind of forces us to stay really up to date and current on this stuff. Our certifications are not something that we get. I didn't take mine in 2009, and I still have that certificate. You have to renew them every 2 years, or else you lose your certificate through that. So it's an ongoing process to keep us up to date and current. So Dr. Zach and Dr. Troy have both been in practice now for 6 years, and both of them bring a special thing to our office. One of the things, like I was by myself for a really long time, and then when I started to bring on associate doctors, of course, I had a couple of patients at first who were kind of like, well, I like you. I've been adjusted by you for 12 years and, this kind of a thing. And I said, well, I appreciate that. However, would it be better for you to have 3 sets of eyes looking at your x-rays and your care plan and coming up with new ideas? I'm the old dog in the group here. And not that I don't stay current on things with my certifications, but, like they learn different things and they have new things that they learned. And so they've been able to be such a value to bring to our office with their different knowledges, with Dr. Troy, with nutrition and neurology, and Dr. Zach's previous studies that he did before even chiropractic school that just helps to bring a well-rounded approach. And as a result, it allows us to deliver what I think is hopefully the best quality of care for our patients. And so our mission is pretty simple. It's to get people healthy. When people walk in our door, most people come to us because of pain issues and stuff like that. And we understand that because we're chiropractors and that's what everybody thinks we're good for. And by the way, we are good for that, okay? However, our real goal is to basically start to introduce the 5 Essentials to people so that they can start making the different lifestyle changes in conjunction with a proper functioning spine and nervous system. And that's where the magic really happens. Just adjustments alone, we see fantastic miracles happening. But when you take that and you combine it with a couple of the other things, people that have had very stubborn conditions, chronic, they've been dealing with these things for years, suddenly are like, wow, I had no idea that it could ever be this good again, right? And that's really what we're after, is to try to have that experience for every one of our patients. So healing comes from within. So we have a saying in chiropractic says the power that made the body heals the body. So I always just bring it back to, isn't it amazing that at one point all of us were a sperm and an egg? Okay, those two things got together. We have a separate class to teach how that happens if you're unaware. But those two things get together, and then what happens 9 months later? You came out, right? So there's something that took two one-celled organisms, put them together, and in 9 months turned it into trillions of cells. And by the looks of everybody that I see walking around, it knew exactly where to put your head and your arms and your feet and all that stuff. So that same power that took two cells, turned it into trillions of cells, and organized you into a baby, does that leave you as soon as you're born? No, it's what animates our entire world and our life, the living world. And so that power that made you will heal you, okay? It just can't have interference. And what we've determined is there's 5 areas of our life that things get interfered with. Number 1, chiropractically, spine interference. We have tons of research that shows when you have a bad spine, you have poor health outcomes, okay? We also know that nutrition's important, okay? If you're eating McDonald's every day, we have our McDonald's cheeseburger that's 8.5 years old, and it still looks like what? McDonald's cheeseburger, right? So people are putting these things, and so our 5 essentials really came down to the 5 things that primarily interfere with people's ability to express health, okay? And so one of the concerns that I always have, even in our current situation with the whole COVID thing, is there still hasn't really been a focus on the fact that what do we got to do to just be healthy, right? We're going to cover a great study here in a second that shows that that's the key to survival, by the way, but we're not focusing on it. We're focusing on how do we kill it? How do we come up with a treatment? How do we, instead of just saying, how do we get people in our country to be healthier so that we don't have to live in fear of a thing that is impossible to see with the naked eye, right? This little invisible thing that President Trump's the invisible disease that he called it or whatever. And so the bottom line is that this is out there, and if we had healthy bodies and healthy immune systems, guess what? Do we have to live in fear? No, right? Because what's the survivability rate? 99.6%. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty high already. So those are the things that we want to help you understand tonight, okay? And it doesn't happen any other way than an inside-out approach. Germ theory or terrain theory. I did a video on this at the beginning of this, at the whole COVID thing, because it was very important for people to understand. You guys understand that if the germ theory was true, the germ theory of disease, which means that the virus is what's causing all of the problems, or the bacteria is what kills everything. If that was true, who would be around here to know about it? Nobody. We'd all be dead, right? If the germ theory was true, nobody would be alive to even be able to talk about the germ theory, okay? So there was 2 people back in the late 1800s, Louis Pasteur, who we all know because he was the one who had the best political ties and had the backing of the medical system. So everybody knows Louis Pasteur, right? Pasteurization, all that stuff. So he was and he actually, the germ theory wasn't even his. He stole it from some other guy and then took credit for it, just to show that he wasn't the nicest person out there. But Louis Pasteur said it was the germ that is what caused disease. And I can understand it to a point. It's like, well, if there was no germs around, then maybe we couldn't get sick, okay? But if there was no germs around, guess what else? If the bacteria and all that stuff wasn't around, what would happen to life as we know it? It wouldn't exist either. We need those things for life to be here, right? And so he had this theory, and then there was another guy named Beauchamp who was less popular, and he said, you know what, it has nothing to do with the germ, it has to do with the terrain. It has to do with you, it has to do with your immune system, it has to do with your body. Because how many of you guys understand that you get exposed to harmful bacteria, viruses, and stuff? How often? All day, every day, right? You're getting exposed, but do you get sick all the time? No. Why is that? Because we have something that's called an immune system, and when our body is healthy, our cells are healthy, our immune system is working, it is not an environment that breeds disease, okay? But let's say we're not living well. We're eating McDonald's, we're drinking sodas, we're doing everything that we know, we're subluxated, our immune system's down, our body is falling apart, and then we get exposed to those germs. Guess what happens? Suddenly we get sick, And then we're blaming the germs on the problem when what's the real problem? Me. I'm the problem here because my terrain became a host for it. Because that same sick person, like everybody's seen it, if you have families and somebody comes home with a cold or something like that, not everybody in the house gets sick. Maybe one does, maybe one doesn't, maybe everybody does because we all been run down a little bit, or maybe only one and the other 5 didn't. And it's happening with COVID. There literally are people that have COVID who have been in a house with that person, and guess what? They never got COVID, right? So how did that happen? And one is the immune systems. Okay, where's the immune system at? Where's the health of the body at? And so I always tell people, like, COVID-19, when it goes away or it does what it's going to do, how long is it going to be until we have COVID 20 or 21 or whatever, right? It's not going to be long because about every 2 years we seem to be having SARS and bird flu and this flu and the avian and whatever, right? And so there's all these things happening. So my question to everybody isn't what are we going to do to kill all those evil bugs? It's what are you going to do between now and the next pandemic to strengthen your body so that you don't have to be the person that lives in fear, right? That you're the person that can say, hey, not that I don't go around licking the floor and doing things purposely to expose myself, but I don't also have to live in fear that if I get exposed to it, I'm going to say, listen, I've been doing the right things. I'm doing the stuff to take care of my body. And if I get it, then 99.6% chance, even if I'm not doing that well, I'm going to live through it. But what if, there's a whole ton of people that tested positive that they had it, and what symptoms did they have? Nothing. They're like, man, I didn't know I was sick. Or that one person like, well, I think I lost my smell for a day, and then the next day it was back, and then I went and got tested, and they're like, oh, you had COVID. And that was their symptoms, right? And then we have the other extreme, which is death. That's horrible, right? So what's the difference, right? And so here's a new Stanford study that just came out, 8/11/2020, okay? My son's on my mom's birthday, by the way. Study determined that the most important factors in determining the outcomes of COVID infection was the function of one's innate immune system. Okay, so they've studied this and they said, so we have 2 different immune systems. We have an innate immune system, which is the immune system that when you first get exposed to something, it's like this, it just sends the big bullies to go in and try to take it out. Okay, but it's kind of generalized. It's just like, let's just, have a machine gun and spray it around and see what we hit. Okay. Then what it's doing is it's keeping it in check so that the adaptive immune system, the immune system that the T cells and the memory cells that form the antibodies can get ramped up to it, and then they can go specifically fight it, okay? So here's what's happening. Those people whose immune systems, their innate immune systems are low, what ends up happening is COVID-19 comes in, and they can't keep it in check. So the immune system is not ready. So instead of having a machine gun sprayed around, you got a .22 revolver and you have to push all the bullets out, reload them by hand, and you're getting overrun. It's getting overrun by COVID, and it's not giving the adaptive immune system enough time to ramp itself up to where it could take it out. And then the system gets overwhelmed. It goes into a crisis. We've all heard of this term cytokine storm and all this kind of stuff. The body goes into a massive freak out mode because it's trying to save its life, okay? And unfortunately, it doesn't end well, especially people that have health challenges, okay? And so this study showed that it was all based off of what's my innate immune system? Where is it at, okay? And so today, part of our goal is gonna be to help you guys understand what can I do to help increase my innate immune system function, right? Would that be a good thing to learn? Okay, not just for COVID, but for literally anything that we're dealing with when it comes to health and wellness, okay? All right, so we're gonna bring
you guys. So, sorry, Dr. Zach here. We're gonna be talking about the human digestive system. With the human digestive system, what organs usually come to your guys' mind when you think about the digestive system?
Large and small intestine.
Good, that's included. Stomach.
Esophagus.
Yeah, so you guys are doing good. So a lot of those. So yeah, our digestive system is a series of a bunch of different organs. Whether it's our GI tract, which is included of our mouth, our esophagus, our stomach, small intestines, large intestines, and then the exit hole, okay? Then the next one is our liver, our gallbladder, and our pancreas. All those are included with our digestive system. Now, if 1 or 2 of those don't function properly, will that affect the rest of the chain? Yeah, exactly. So we've got to figure out how can we make sure that not only just the intestines are functioning well, but they're overall the entire digestive system to function properly, so we can make sure our immune system stays healthy.
Yeah. You know, it starts, how many times did mom tell you you're supposed to chew your food?
16.
Okay, yeah, so it's always like a different number. Somebody's like 37. I'm like, wow, your mom was mean. But there was like a number, and it's because it starts there. When you don't chew food properly, the food gets into the stomach and it's not broken down to the most root, you know, the initial levels, and then it's harder for the acid to do its job, and then that sets everything up for distress, right? So absorption of nutrients is a key factor. So how many of you guys have heard of that old saying that you are what you eat? People heard that? Okay. How many of you believe that that's true? Okay, so it's partially true, okay? I will just give a caveat to it that says you are what you eat, digest, absorb, and assimilate, okay? Because there's a lot of people that eat food and it comes out food. You know, like little babies, you give them corn, what comes out? Corn. They didn't digest or assimilate that, right? But unfortunately, even adults, because their digestion is so off, they are not doing that. So you could be thinking, man, I'm doing a great job. I eat all these healthy foods. I'm eating all these things. And it's not even breaking down enough in your intestines and absorbing, and your body's not utilizing it. So even though you're eating really well, you could have malabsorption problems and have deficiencies just from that alone, right? And so understanding that absorbing those nutrients so that you can give the raw materials and the resources to your body so that it can do the things that it needs to do to function normally, that's really where it's at, okay? It's not just you are what you eat, it's are what you eat, digest, absorb, and assimilate, okay? And that's also a strong connection of why nervous system and all that stuff is so important, even with something like digestion and healing, right? Because what controls how all that happens? That good old brain and spinal cord control all that for us, right? Okay. So this next slide, what is the gut microbiome? So does anybody know what, when we say it's kind of a buzzword, a lot of, you're like cool if you know what a gut microbiome is. So is anybody cool here? Does everybody know what it is? We got a few, okay. So the microbiome, we hear a lot about, has anybody heard the term probiotics? Okay, so that's part of your biome. We got prebiotics, you've got bacteria, you got fungus, you've got all kinds of things, viruses, all that stuff that are living in there, and that makes up what we call our microbiota or our biome in our gut, okay? And so when that is normal and in balance, we're gonna be covering in a few minutes how wonderful that is, but if it gets to be out of balance or abnormal for reasons, then like, wait a second, now we start to have all of these other challenges, okay? And when do you guys think, so when does the biome in most people start to become dysfunctional?
When bad bacteria takes over the good bacteria.
Sure. So what do you think is a cause behind that? Okay. So yeah, that's a huge one, right? Antibiotics, what are antibiotics designed to do? Kill bacteria, right? And they don't have specific enough antibiotics that it only goes in and gets the bad guy, right? It's going to go in and it's going to kill off, especially if you're taking a broad spectrum antibiotic like amoxicillin or penicillin, those things go in and they wipe it out, which is why most people have what kind of problems when they're on antibiotics? Digestive problems, because you just wiped out your flora, right? And so think about this, from the time somebody's born, okay, so we're gonna get into some anatomy and physiology. Some of it could be a little bit gross. I'm just giving you a heads up. When a baby is born naturally, comes out through the vaginal canal, that baby engulfs mucus, okay, which sounds gross, okay? But it's an actually really important part of setting up the microbiome, because as they swallow that, it gives that coating to the intestinal linings that sets it up for a good bacteria. So when somebody's born by C-section, they've studied this, they already know that somebody's born by C-section, they have a harder time establishing a normal bowel flora than somebody who is born vaginally, okay? And actually, they do it in Australia now, where if they know that they're doing a C-section, they actually will take gauze and sponge material, put it into the vagina of the mom, and then they do the C-section. As soon as the baby comes out, they remove that stuff, they wipe it all over the baby, all over their skin, into their mouth, so that they can hopefully still get some of those benefits. And guess what they found? It's beneficial to do that, okay? So sometimes just being born by C-section alone is enough to cause problems, because the first exposure that your digestive tract gets is outside world bacteria, okay? Now you take that and you give a kid an antibiotic in the first year, and they've actually studied this to show that it's almost impossible for that kid to ever have a normal bowel flora ever in their life. When you're born C-section and you have antibiotics within that first year, extremely challenging to ever rebuild that properly. Okay? And unfortunately, how many kids get antibiotics within the first year or two of their life? It's a very large percentage. Okay? And so they're colicky, they get an ear infection, they get these little things, and then what do? We throw antibiotics at them, and then we wonder, why do they have so many allergies and all these other problems? It's because we created dysbiosis from the get-go in their little tummies and their intestines. Okay? So it's very important to understand how early it can start, and then every time we take antibiotics or we do those things, what are we doing? We're breaking it down again. Okay? So it's very important to restore that afterwards if that's something that you had to do for some reason. Okay? All right. Take her away, Dr. Zach.
All right, so with the gut and brain connection, how many of you guys have heard of our gut being our second brain? 3 people? Wow. It's okay. I was hoping more. But if you guys have ever had that feeling of just like that gut feeling of either something's bad about to happen or something good that's about to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what happens everyone told us we need to listen to our gut. Well, most of the time females listen to it better than the males do because they have the mother intuition or the women intuition. They listen to more about the gut feeling than the guys do. With the gut and brain connection, they're connected in 2 different ways. First off, they're connected physically and chemically. Our brain, it has over 1 billion neurons in it, and our gut actually has over 500 million neurons. So if they're connected physically and chemically, how are they connected physically? Yeah, your spinal nervous system. That's how they communicate with each other, let each other know what's going on inside. Chemically, how they are communicating with each other is actually through neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters is like epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin. So serotonin, 95% of it is actually developed in our gut. Okay, do we know what serotonin is?
What the body releases for like happiness.
Exactly, yes, it's our feel-good hormone. So now if our digestion and our gut is unhealthy, what happens to our serotonin levels? It goes down, then we start to develop depression, we start to develop some anxiety, and that's what happens when our gut starts to break down and our serotonin levels start to break down. So with gut and immunity. So with the gut and immunity, over 70% of our immune system is actually lives in our gut. There's a lot of new research is starting to find out about that. So with that being said, if we have, like I talked about the serotonin levels, if we have a good healthy bacteria in our intestines and it's functioning well, our immune system will be functioning well as also. But what happens is when our gut bacteria starts to break down, our immune system breaks down. The bacteria is interlinked with the immune cells. So when there is a foreign invader or a pathogen or something that's coming into the body, the microbiota says, hey, immune cells, we need more of you guys to come in and fight this bad guy that's about to come get us. Both of those, when they communicate to each other, they tell each other what's going on. They send it up to the brain and says, hey, we need more T immunity cells to come down here so we can fight what's about to come down here and be prepared for that with proper functioning digestive health. Okay. Now, inflammation. So inflammation, everybody's heard of that, correct? Yes. So inflammation is actually the root cause of chronic diseases as well as pain. So what happens though is when we get inflammation inside of our gut, it starts to break down the intestinal walls. And when that starts to happen, when we start to have more inflammation in our gut, it actually starts to lead to leaky gut. How many of you heard of leaky gut? Good, more people, excellent. So leaky gut, when we have chronic leaky gut, which we'll be getting here shortly, it leads to even more problems later in life. So leaky gut, so there'll be a quick little video here.
Our intestines are lined with barrier cells, called epithelial cells, that transport nutrients from food into our bloodstream. These epithelial cells have tight junctions between them to ensure that no undigested food particles, digestive waste, or toxins escape into our blood and create health complications. Healthy epithelial cells are supported by a balanced microbiome of good and bad bacteria, which is supported by a nutrient-rich intestinal environment. Stress, poor diet, lack of exercise, and use of antibiotics can disrupt our microbiome and intestinal environment. These disruptions can lead to weak epithelial cells and loose epithelial junctions. Without tight junctions, undigested food particles, digestive waste, and toxins can leak out of our intestines and into our bloodstream, causing inflammatory immune responses, various digestive disorders, and changes to the normal function of the digestive tract. This is often called leaky gut. So what can you do about it? A nutrient-rich intestinal environment helps support a healthy microbiome, which helps support strong epithelial cells and tight epithelial junctions. Therefore, an effective way to help prevent leaky gut is to maintain a healthy, nutrient-rich intestinal environment. This can be achieved with whole food and plant-based nutritional intake, good eating habits, and lifestyle management techniques like stress reduction and exercise.
And a proper functioning nervous system. So all those things are the top four essentials that we talked about, and then the only one that they didn't talk about was the nervous system, which is what we specialize in. So with that, symptoms of poor gut health. So with leaky gut, when it becomes a chronic thing, we start to get fatigue. We start to become tired. We start to get skin conditions, eczema, psoriasis. We start to have poor sleep. We have unexpected either weight gain or we have unexpected weight loss, upset stomachs. I mean, I can keep going and going and going when we start to have poor symptoms of gut health. With leaky gut and inflammation now, when this comes, what happens is we have chronic inflammation, which leads to leaky gut. And when we don't fix the inflammation or the leaky gut, when they get together, they actually start to develop Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease are one of the main three diseases that will start to develop when these two never calm down. We can't fix them. Now, when those happens, it's like a whole slew of symptoms already talked about. We start to get arthritis, degeneration in our body, asthma, allergies, food sensitivities, food allergies. So all those things are all root cause from a leaky gut with chronic inflammation inside the gut, not allowing the bacteria to do what it's supposed to do and help to aid in our digestive health. So the gut health and with our 5 essentials. So causes of poor gut health. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about what my life story. So growing up, I lived I lived in like the medical profession. I ate the Western diet. So for my favorite thing for breakfast, when I was able to drive my car, I would drive to this donut shop every single morning and get 2 donuts, 1 chocolate bar and 1 chocolate bar with the cream in the center. That was my go-to almost every single day. Then we would have frozen pizzas for dinner. We would have, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and corn was my favorite meal. So Mom made me that pretty often. We had hot dogs. My dad wasn't a very good cook, so we burned all of our hot dogs. So that alone wasn't good. Same thing with our meats, our beefs. All those things were all conventional, full of GMOs and things like that, antibiotics. I was an active kid. I played a bunch of different sports. I lifted weights, so I had the physical body fit of an athlete. So no matter what I ate, my metabolism was able to, do what it was supposed to do. I never gained weight. I stayed the same. Now, once I got into college, what do you think? Did my digestive or did my habits get better or worse? Thanks, guys. You're correct. They did get worse. So they got worse because once I got to college, I was able to drink alcohol. So I was pretty stoked about that. I lived in a house of 5 dudes on a college budget. So that right there just kind of, I'm sure a lot of you are like, oh yeah, I remember some of those days. So yes, exactly. So we had frozen pizza, we had beer, we had chips, we had cereal, we had Top Ramen, and Oreos. Those what we had in our fridge at all times. Now, I still continue working out. I still play. I did intramural sports in college, so I was still as active as not as active as in high school and everything, but I was still staying active. But what kept happening is I kept gaining weight. And I'm like, I don't get this. And then, bar foods, fast foods, fried foods. I mean, you name it. I kept gaining weight. I would range between like 195 up to like 205 was like my high. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Joints started hurting. I started having digestive issues, heartburn, acid reflux, bloatiness, gasiness, diarrhea. And I'm just like, okay, this is not fun. What the heck is going on? But, I just came to it. It's like, hey, that's just what it is. It's everyone has these symptoms too that I'm around, so it's a normal thing. But what happened in about 2011, Dr. Tim actually invited me to come to a Max Living conference here in Colorado. And it was a conference of over 1,000 doctors and CAs like Ari and Krista, over 1,000 of us in this conference. Well, that's when I actually was first introduced to Max Living and the 5 Essentials. When I learned about the 5 Essentials, I was like, that's all you got to do? Like, it seems pretty easy, but also kind of hard to change all the stuff that I thought was normal and was the right way. So once I found out about the 5 Essentials, I drew a line in the sand and said, you know what, I'm going to cross that. I am not going back there and living the life that I used to live. So what I did is that weekend, I actually applied for chiropractic college. Within that next month, I got accepted and went to chiropractic school. So once I got into chiropractic, me and my wife and Dr. Troy at the time, we stuck really, really hard with the advanced plan for 9 solid months. During that time, I actually lost weight, 50 pounds. My joints felt amazing. I had energy. I slept good. All of these proactive and healthy things started to happen. I was like, this is crazy. Then even the crazier thing is when I started implementing that with exercise, I mean, it was just off the charts of how good I felt. And it was awesome to see. I actually had to go get a whole new wardrobe because all my fat clothes didn't fit me. So I was pretty excited about that. But what happened is I'm still on my health journey now, and it's 8 years later. Wow. 8 years later, I'm still on my health journey. I'm not doing as strict of a plan I did for those 9 months, but I do bounce back and forth between the core plan and the advanced plan and to continue that health journey moving forward. And it's something we got to do for the rest of our life if we want to stay healthy and live here as long as we want. So next one here. So these are the 3 things that what I actually started doing to kind of change my habits, change my lifestyle, start living the healthier life. Is the first one was, avoid certain things in our diet. And then we had to replenish it with, specific things to help to rebuild our body back up. And then when my body was broken down to a point where even food couldn't help me, I had to supplement with that. And that's something we'll go deeper in step by step on that. Now, when we talk about the gut health, the avoid diet, with this here, it's, we've got conventional meats, there's the antibiotic fed, there's the grain fed meats, the GMO foods that are fed to the animals. So the conventional meats are not good. We want to have more organic, free range, grass fed. Those are the things we want, and our body will actually absorb those nutrients a lot better. There's also artificial sweeteners. Now this is huge. Artificial sweeteners as in aspartame, sucralose, high fructose corn syrup, and there's a whole slew of them. Those actually cause a detriment to our gut bacteria. It actually will kill off the good ones and feed the bad ones. Now we have an overbalance of the bad compared to the good, and that's where we start having the storm of unhealthy gut. After that, we've got alcohol. So sugars in processed foods. So sugars in processed foods, we're talking about high fructose corn syrup, but boxed foods, frozen pizza. So everything that I did, the Western diet, is practically all on that processed foods and the sugary foods. Those are the things I had to avoid. Then alcohol consumption. I'm not condoning alcohol completely. So having high sugary alcoholic drinks, high alcohol content, a lot of beer, those things can also create an imbalance in our gut. But they found studies that wine, red wine specifically, is actually good for our gut and our circulation in our gut as well. It increases the good bacteria and actually will decrease the bad bacteria when we consume red wine. Now, I'm not saying a bottle of red wine every single night. Okay, I know some of you might like that, but a couple glasses throughout the week in the evening, fantastic. The reason why is because there's polyphenols inside of the red wine. The polyphenols is what is inside the plant, which allows our body to start to replenish the good bacteria and start to deplete the bad bacteria. So those are some steps or some of the avoid things I had to do once I learned all those 5 essentials. Dr. Troy's about to come up and he's going to be talking to you about how to replenish your gut.
I like this part. Usually I'm the one who tells everybody what to stay away from. That kind of sucks because everybody's like, nobody wants to talk to Dr. Troy. Just tell me what I can eat. Now I get to do it the other side. So now I get to tell you what you do get to eat. So it's going to be pretty sweet. But like Dr. Zach said, and kind of throughout his story, like you heard about the processed foods and the sugars and things like that. And we ultimately know we want to stay away from those things because it's going to increase that inflammation. But what do we need to replenish it with to make sure that our guts heal, right? So one of the biggest things that we're looking at is, anybody ever heard of omega-3s, good fats, right? Yeah, if you're here long enough, you're going to hear those words a lot on top of that, our nutritional plans as well. But omega-3s are really incredible, not just for your brain and your nervous system, which they are phenomenal for helping all that kind of stuff, but it also really helps reheal your gut as well. It gives your bacteria something to stick onto, stays into your large and small intestines, and helps that actually do the healing. So it's pretty cool to get your gut to start healing a little bit better. Next thing we talk about are probiotics. Anybody ever heard of those? I know we mentioned a little bit ago. Did anybody know about that before we mentioned a little bit ago? Right? So probiotics are the bugs. I love to think of it like an army, right? Now, if you look at your probiotics, you'll see huge numbers like in the 30, 50, 60 billions, right? It's huge. And you're like, oh my God, that's crazy. There's more of that than there are in that little vial than there are people on this planet, right? So you're thinking a huge amount, but you got to realize there are literally trillions of bacteria all throughout your entire body. So having like 10 billion or a couple 100 million for an army, right, that's supposed to go all the way down into your GI tract, that is, the whole job is supposed to take over the bad bacteria, proliferate, and then reheal your gut. It's kind of hard to do when you have a massive army of billions of bad stuff, and you got like a very small troop of good stuff trying to get down in there, right? You're not going to make much of a difference because the bad bacteria is established. They have a lot of food. There's a lot of numbers, and we don't have that amount getting in there to try and do any type of counteracting. Does that make sense? So when you look at the probiotic, we always recommend getting up into the 30 to 50 billion range. And that's so you have a huge amount of troops that can actually go into the GI tract and do something, right? Because like we talked about the GI tract, it starts in your mouth. By the time the GI bacteria gets into your stomach, your large intestines, it had to go through your stomach, it had to go through your small intestines, had to go through all these different tube structures, and it's been dying off before it even got there, right? Now it gets there. Now we want to make sure we have a high enough number to do something about it, right? So we want to be at the 30 to 50 billion range, and we want to have a lot of variety of these microbiota in your gut, right? You don't want one thing to win out over anything else, then we got a big problem. So once we get the bugs down there, now we need to feed the bugs. Yeah, we got to give it some kind of foods, and that's what we call prebiotics. Anybody ever heard of prebiotics? Right, those are the foods for the bug. So once we get the troops in there, now they need supplies so they can continue doing their job. Once we give them the supply that they need, now they're going to proliferate even more. When they're proliferating, the bad bacteria starts to go down, and then it all gets under control, and then we get that balance like we talked about, right? And it all comes down to how do we get things balanced, right? The last thing we look at are raw foods. Anybody ever heard of like the raw food diet? And people, so there's benefits to eating raw foods, there's benefits to eating the heated foods, right? But in this particular case, when we talk about raw foods, the main benefit are the enzymes that come out of the raw food, okay? So raw food has these very particular enzymes which helps break down that food. Well, when you heat that up, those enzymes break down, they get denatured, and they don't work anymore. That means your ability to absorb and break down stuff inside your gut becomes compromised because we don't have those enzymes there, right? So if we can eat more raw foods, raw fruits, raw vegetables, things like that, you're going to get a lot more enzyme mechanics working, and it's going to make the absorption and breakdown of your food a lot easier, right? So that's the omega-3s. We need probiotics, prebiotics, and then we need those enzymes from those raw foods. That'll do some really good stuff for your body. That's going to help re-heal your gut, right? But when we talk about re-healing gut, we have to re-heal the gut, right? So we have to stop what caused the gut to get damaged in the first place. So we already talked about eliminating and avoiding those things. Then we have to re-heal the gut. We have to give it some kind of environment that's healing, and then we can proliferate it with those good bacteria, right? If you have a gut that's inhospitable, even if you put a bunch of good bacteria down in there, they're not going to be able to live because the gut's inflamed and nothing's going to stick onto it. Like, it's not going to live. So before we can just throw probiotics in and have everything be good, we have to get the gut to actually heal to a point where, hey, it's not going to cause other issues, right? So one of the things that we could do is get good foods, good quality foods in there. Unfortunately, though, the amount of nutrients that we would need nowadays to re-heal all that it's a lot of vegetables. We're talking like probably this much veggies right here, right? Every day. Nobody has the ability to do that really, where you're going to get the adequate amount every single time. So something we can do is we introduce what are called nutraceuticals. Anybody ever heard of nutraceuticals? So supplementation is a one that people have more heard of, right? Supplements. When it comes to nutraceuticals, those are even more specified supplements for a specific thing, right? So when we look at it, and we're going to get into it because we have some really good nutraceuticals specifically to heal your gut, right? But once the gut's healed, the nutraceuticals aren't something you're going to be on forever, right? So we basically take the nutraceuticals, we heal specifically whatever it is we're trying to affect, and then once we're done with that, then we do more generalized supplementation just to support what we already have going on. That's why it's called supplement support, right? So it makes sense to do that, but you can't just take the nutraceuticals and not change anything else in your life. It's not going to heal that way, right? So we have to do all of it in these steps. So when we come to the nutraceuticals, two of the main ones that we talk about here, this is in our basic health gut bundle, but it's the Max GI and then the probiotics, right? So the probiotics we talked about, those are bugs. You see how it's marked at 5B? That's billion, right? So it's a high quality probiotic. That's great news. This Max GI right here, this is the nutraceutical that's going to help rebuild and repair the gut. So it has some really cool things in it, like essential oils. It has some enzymes, like I talked about, to help you break down food, right? It also has some of the essential oils in there and some of the other nutrients that they have decrease the inflammation of the gut to make it more hospitable. So when we start throwing in those probiotics, they're actually going to attach to something. They have somewhere to live and they got something they can do, right? So that's what we want there. This works for anybody who's like, if you just started noticing that, hey, I have pretty good health. I just want to make sure my gut stays healthy. I don't want to get it worse or anything like that. This is a good bundle, very basic for people to be on. Make sure you're going to get some good probiotics into you. Anybody who's ever taken any antibiotics, we've talked about how horrible that could be for you. Right? You got to be on a probiotic. There's no way around it because antibiotic stands for anti-life. That means it wiped everything out. If we don't put something back in it, then there's nothing in there. Okay, so get these probiotics in and start re-healing the gut and giving it some good bacteria so your body can do something with it. If you're the type of person who, we'll talk about the Max GI. Oops, sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong thing. All right, one more, wait for it. There we go. Okay, so this is the second one, right? And this is the, what the heck? Delay, you guys, I apologize. All right, so it shouldn't delay anymore. Here's our second bundle. So this one's the core gut health bundle. It has the Max GI and the probiotics, like we had already talked about, but this is for the next step. Hey, the person knows they have maybe some GI issues, bloating, gassy, constipation, diarrhea, something going on. Maybe they feel sluggish, right? They need a little bit more to help with their gut. Well, they're still going to need the Max GI to re-heal the gut and the probiotics to refill the gut with those good bacteria. But then doing the things like the L-glutamine, and this is a recipe book to help you make really good, nutritious food that you can have that helps you build your gut back up, as opposed to just like me, I'm very basic, right? It's like vegetable and meat. I don't really have a huge variety of, of stuff. Maybe I'm not so creative. That must be it. So that's why I have the recipe book, right? So, and then also the Pro-L-glutamine, it's an amino acid that is phenomenal, not just for your gut health. I mean, that's obviously why we're talking about it here, because it's actually really good for intestinal energy and intestinal health, the Pro-glutamine, but it also is an amino acid for the rest of your body as well. So it's just a great one to be on overall health, but specifically for the gut, because it will help the intestines heal quicker. So it's pretty sweet. When we start getting into, and does that. Okay, there's that gut health recipe book. Again, it just has some cool recipes in it. There's smoothies in it. There's, you know, I mean, probably more recipes than you guys even want to know about, because there's just a lot of stuff. We have that here. If you are dealing with advanced gut problems, right? We're talking, you know, you have some kind of health issue going on with the gut. You have ulcerative colitis, you got Crohn's, you got allergies, you have some kind of food sensitivity, you have something that is going on that you know about. You need to be on something a little bit more robust than just a probiotic and help your gut kind of heal, right? Because if you're at that point, your gut's already messed up. It is beyond the, hey, it might just be getting bad. No. It's full-blown bad, and you're just now might be able to feel it, right? There's a big difference. So we have to do something about that. And the quicker we can do that, the faster you're going to get results, the faster your body's going to get back to a normal level, and you're going to be able to continue on living healthy and loving life, right? So what that looks like, besides all the stuff that you're already going to be doing for just the basic and the core, these are the two main things that they're adding here, the Gut Renew and the Pure Path Fiber. So everybody ever heard of fiber, right? Pretty awesome stuff, good for the gut lining, right? Not only does fiber help kind of like do a bottle brushing thing to help clean out your colon and stuff like that, but it also will prevent your body from absorbing a bunch of sugar and stuff, right? So when you have fiber in your body, that will bind to those carbs and won't let your body just suck all of it up. So it's pretty awesome from a blood sugar regulating standpoint and just blood health in general. It's pretty cool. Just by getting a good fiber in there. And that fiber has a whole bunch of different types of fibers from different plants in it. So it's just a variety of it for your gut to kind of work with. The next one is this Gut Renew powder. And kind of how I talked about, you know, if you have a GI tract that is inflamed, right, and you have that leaky gut like we talked about, if it's inflamed for a long period of time, then the gap junctions, the things that allow your body to have food pass in and out of it, right, which are supposed to be very, very small. When you have inflammation chronic and you get that leaky gut that opens up like that, molecules that are not supposed to be in your body are now allowed to get in your body. So we have to fix that, right? Doing things like the Gut Renew is one of the things that we're going to do to help decrease the inflammation of the gut. If we can decrease the inflammation, then that gap junction goes whoop. And once the gap junction closes, now you have a good, nice, healthy gut. Now you're not going to have a whole bunch of sensitivities, a whole bunch of issues to other things, because there's not supposed to be in your body anyways, right? Now your gut's healed. Now it's not going to get into your body. So we want to make sure that we can heal that as fast and as quickly as possible. I'm sure everybody wants that, right? Who here wants a good functioning gut? Right? Everybody, exactly. Keep going through these powders here. Yeah, but there's like a slight lag to this, so I apologize. Perfect. Oh. Okay, so so the nutraceuticals, right? We talked about that, and I'm being specifically to help re-heal your gut. That's what we were putting in there for. Once that's done, once we've got a level of healing, now you want to be on some kind of just supplement in general for generalized health, right? Again, it comes down with the in a multivitamin, there's a whole ton of nutrients, right? In order for you to get that same amount of nutrients, you basically would have to be a rabbit eating lots and lots of vegetables nonstop, right? But then you got to do that again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and forever, right? That's hard to do. So it's easier if we could do some things to help supplement it to offset some of the nutrients that we might not be getting in our diet, okay? Max Living put together the Men and Women's Daily Essential Box. So if you guys have been taking our supplements, this is basically just all the supplements put together to make it easier for you. But it has your omegas in it already. It has the multivitamin, the Men and Women's multivitamin. That one's in there already. Also has a vitamin D, the B complex, which is great for energy. It's also good for gut health and just pretty much everything overall in your body, to be honest with you. Vitamin D and B vitamins are just crazy and everything. But that all comes in it. It also has some magnesium in it. which is going to help with muscles and bone and GI tract. I mean, all sorts of stuff that is going to be in there just to help support the nutrition that your body should already be getting, right? And that's the last thing. It comes down to like, what are you eating? Because the reality is, if all you do is eat McDonald's, right, or kind of live the way Dr. Zach lived in college, and then you just take these supplements, you think your life's like, you think you're super healthy? No, right? We're doing all the wrong things, but then we're offsetting it by taking the supplements. That's better than doing all the wrong things and not taking any supplements, right? But the reality is you have to make some radical changes in order for your body to heal, right? In order for you to have long-term health. Well, we know that what you put into your body, like we talked about, what you put into your body and what it assimilates is who you are, right? That's what you become. So you want to make sure that that isn't McDonald's. Yeah? You don't want to be Wendy's. You don't want to be Taco Bell, right? You want to be good quality nutrients. So we look at 2 different plans in this office here to do that for you. So nutrition aspect, one of them, the main one is called the Core Plan. This is great for any person, period. You don't have a lot of digestive issues going on. You don't have any real big, huge health concerns. There's no prescribed diagnosis of disease. Core Plan is a good one to be on. It's low carb, it's good quality fats, good quality proteins, and that's really what it talks about, is making sure that the quality of your nutrients are robust and high, right? And then lowering down the carbohydrates, the simple processed food, the garbage, sugar, stuff like that. It is an incredible plan to be on. Your body will love you for it, and you're going to do amazing things. That's great for every person. Now, if you're the person who has some kind of disease, diabetes, you got cancer, you got schizophrenia, you have some kind of skin issue, you have something going on, then you need more than just Core Plan. You really have to drop that inflammation down. So we move you to Advanced Plan. That's what this is for. It's to help not only do the Core Plan, but really it limits all carbs, all glutens, so your body has a chance to decrease inflammation and heal, right? And then you're going to do better overall in your health, right? Because there's no carbohydrates, there's no sugary thing that's causing your body to go back into crisis mode, right? So both of these plans are incredible for anybody to be on. But if you do have some kind of health issue and you really know you have a gut problem, the Advanced Plan, the thing that you're going to want to be on in order to establish that good, healthy gut, and then we can move you more on Core Plan, which becomes a lot easier to maintain, but you're still going to get good benefits with it. So that's what we look at here. Okay, and then now it comes down to mindset. Dr. Tim's good at that one. Go ahead, sir.
All right, so how many of you guys know that your mindset's important? Okay, if you don't understand that, all I would do is challenge you to look at somebody who is glued to the TV right now, watching the doom and gloom that's reported on every news channel of what's going on in our society, versus someone who has intentionally not watched those programs, and who's going to be a happier person. The person not watching TV right now, right? It's very simple. And listen, I'm not saying that, like all TV's bad. I'm just saying, like, if your mindset is in this fear and concern and all of those kinds of things constantly, then you're in a distress situation all the time. You're in a fight or flight situation all the time. And so nervous system wise, we have our sympathetic system, which is that fight or flight system. And then we have a parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, and heal. So it's kind of an important one when we're dealing with illness. So if you're in a sympathetic state all the time because we're amped up, we're watching the news and it's, oh, another COVID case, or oh, I know another this, and tragedy, and all the riots, like all this stuff has been so dominating the message of today that people's sympathetic nervous systems are literally going haywire. Okay, and it's keeping their adrenaline and their cortisol levels high, and it's literally inhibiting them from healing during this time. There's a good reason why not only do we have COVID issues, but we've got a whole bunch of other health problems developing in this country, and it's because of stress and the mindset and how people are looking at things. Okay, so the good news is guess who gets to choose their mindset? You do, right? So I can look at something and I can take it and I can get all worked up and stressed about it, or I can look at something and say, hey, like I'm maybe an eternal optimist, but I always say, what good came out of it, right? So what good has come out of COVID? Does anybody have anything?
Better hygiene.
Okay, so better hygiene, right? Maybe some of those people that go to the bathroom and they don't wash their hands, now they're suddenly washing their hands, right? Right? So that's a good thing that came out of it. Dr. Troy said family time. I don't know about you guys, but I've had more dinners around the table with my family over the last 6 months than I did probably in the previous 2 years, right? Because we go. Got son's football, and this is going here, and we got this going on. We got church group tonight, and it's just go. And then it was like, bam, that all stopped. Okay, now I was riding my mountain bike more. I was doing this. I was doing all of these things because life purposely slowed down. So there were some benefits that came out of it. I think it was a good reality check for us just to say down, hey, we don't need to be in this high stress situation all the time. Now, the downside is in the work world, it added stress because people lost jobs and people's finances weren't quite right. There's a lot of things that started to change as well, and that added some stress. And I'm not saying that that was necessarily a good thing, although I've heard good stories. I've heard of people who have gotten real creative and reinvented themselves, and now they're no longer going to go back to that old job because they've created something that's even better, right? So there's good that's come out of it as well. So it's all how we look at things, and what pair of glasses are you using to look at it, right? And so when we have a strong vision of what we want and what we want for health, it's a lot easier to have a positive mindset about those outcomes. Does that make sense? Okay, so stress, I delved into that a little bit. Stress is a killer in our country, okay? Even non-COVID wise, we have very high heart attack rates and all of those things, and that all of that stuff can come back as a strong correlation to somebody's stress level, right? That person who's, think of the stock market trader guy who's like, buy, sell, like his whole day, he's just trying to buy and sell things, and he's constantly in this type A personality, and he goes. Well, what happens to those people when they get to be like 40? Suddenly they're having the big one. They're like, man, how did I have a heart attack at 40 years old, right? And so although there's other factors, I'm not just blaming stress, understand that stress is a huge factor. They actually look at heart attacks. People think that heart attacks are blocked arteries all the time, and less than 50% of people that have heart attacks have blocked arteries. It's a stress response of the arteries shutting down because you're in a fight or flight state, and your body, your heart can't get oxygen, right? And so we have to understand that there's this stress thing is important. And do you think there's a chance that your immune system, your gut, and all that stuff, like you guys remember when you were kids and you ate a sandwich and then you wanted to go swimming? What did mom say? You had to wait 30 minutes or some kind of, again, time was always different depending on whose mom you had, but it was wait some point of time, because if you didn't, what could happen? You could get a cramp. And that's because when you eat food, which is why we shouldn't be eating at our desk and eating in the car and because when you eat food, your parasympathetic system kicks in, and your body shunts blood away from your arms and legs and starts to send it into the internal organs to digest and process that food. So if I went out swimming and I didn't have enough blood in my legs, then I could get what? A cramp. And if you're swimming, you could drown. That's a bad outcome, right? So mom said she didn't understand that. She just knew that don't do it, right? And she made up some magic time of how long you had to wait. And so the bottom line is that when we are in these stressful situations and we're eating, how well do you think digestion's going, even if you didn't have any leaky gut problems? It's going bad, right? That's how powerful stress is to deregulating digestion, okay? So why is it important? Like when we look at our European people, like how long is dinner in Europe? Like 2 hours, right? How long is dinner in the United States? 7 minutes, 10 minutes on a slow day, right? We just get down, we pound that food, and we get on to that next thing, right? And there's problems with that. It's the whole thing with, getting a 30-minute lunch period at work, or some of them aren't even, people are like, well, I don't even have time for that because they laid 3 people off. They're never going to rehire them. Now I'm doing the job of 4 people. So how much time do I have to eat lunch? 0. And so I just eat it at my desk. So now I'm getting emails and, instant messages telling me how behind I am and all these reminders. And I'm trying to eat, put nutrition in my body. My body's like, I can't do this, right? And at some point, it's going to catch up to you, and you're going to have what? Some major health complication or a breakdown that's going to happen, okay? So stress, that mindset, absolutely crucial for us to have a healthy longevity in lifestyle, okay? So how do we do it? Avoid it all. Just say, heck with it. That's the easy way to do it. It's not very usable, though. So if we think about it, we have to learn to say no sometimes, right? That's the other problem that we have in the United States is for generally speaking, we're a lot of yes people, right? They're like, hey, can you help me do this? I got 13 other things I got to do, but sure. You know, my wife complains about this because I'll have like a honey-do list this long. I have a friend that calls me and says, hey, can you come over and help me with this? Oh, I'll do that right away. I go over there, I come back, and my wife's like, well, you didn't do any things you were supposed to do for me. And I'm like, well, yeah, but my friend needed help. I just put more things on my plate. Now I have the stress of my wife saying I didn't do what I was supposed, you know, or whatever, right? So you see how easy it can happen. So sometimes you just got to learn to say what? No, it's pretty easy, right? Say, I would love to, but I can't. Okay, that's you're not being mean. Okay, they probably have a list of 13 other people they can call that didn't come to this class and didn't learn that it's okay to say no every once in a while, and they're going to say yes, and they're going to stress themselves out. At least it's not you, right? Okay. Rejuvenate. How many of you guys know that you need to take time to have quiet time in your life? Okay. Every morning when I get up in the morning, I get up early, way before I got to be here, and it's not for any reason for me, but for me to be able to have what? Quiet. Okay. And you can choose to do what you want in there, except for get on your phone and get all worked up about things and reading the 13 bad things that happened because you have CNN and Fox News and everything sending notifications to your phone and it's beeping at you all night and you're not even getting quality sleep. Like this is normal stuff, unfortunately, in our society. But you need to get up in the morning. You need to have some peace and quiet. You get up and you read your Bible. You can do some meditation. You can read an inspirational book. I don't care what it is that you do, but you need to have no distractions. You need to spend 20 minutes or so kind of center yourself and getting ready for the day, right? And plan that stuff into your life. You'll be amazed at how much better life goes when I have a plan, okay? What typically happens is people wake up not 20 minutes early, they wake up 20 minutes late. Then it's rush, and I'm doing this, and then you're flying the bird at everybody down the road because you're going 78 in a 43, and you're like, they're driving too slow. No, they're not. They're doing reasonable things. You're doing because you're behind, and then you get to work, and your boss is giving you one of these because you're late again, and like, so how's that day gonna go? It sucks, right? It's just that's the only word for it. So prepare for that. Schedule time to go get a pedi or go get a massage, or like schedule time into your life that allows you to have some recuperation. Because if you don't, you can only burn the candle on both ends for so long until you run out of wax really quick. Okay. And then the last thing is strategize, and that's what that 20 minutes in the morning is going to get you. Okay. When I'm up early, I have an infrared sauna at home. I sit in my sauna. I get some detox and some heavy sweat going on. When I'm in there, I'm spending the first 10 to 15 minutes doing in my church, we do something called the Power 3, where you three verses every day. I read my Power 3 verses, and then I spend the last 10 or 15 minutes, I'm in there for 30 minutes, just figuring out, what do I got to do today? What's my day going to look like? What do I have coming up? What do I have this? We had this tonight, so we had to schedule, and we scheduled to do a run through at 1:30 and got all that stuff going. So that way my day went exactly the way my day was supposed to go. Okay. And it's amazing how when you start doing that your day goes the way it's supposed to go most of the time. Okay. And so it's such an important part to keep that sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system in balance. So,
All right. So talking about toxins in your gut. So we all know toxins are bad for us. It's pretty simple to understand that. But with these top three things here, are glyphosate, BPA, and heavy metals, those have been proven to destroy and kill your gut bacteria. So herbicides, pesticides, that thing called Roundup, that is what is sprayed amongst all of our conventional fruits and vegetables. So we got to make sure that we're lenient and going more towards the organic, the GMO-free foods. That's how we're going to at least minimize the amount of toxins we're ingesting in our body. The next one is going to be BPA. So BPAs are plastics found in a wide range of different kinds of plastics. So try to find those things that say BPA free on them but even better, try to transition to more glassware. Glassware is where it's at. There's obviously no BPA in there. You're allowed to cook with it, bake with it, and it's not going to leak that BPA into the food. And then when we ingest that BPA-filled food, it's not going to cause problems if we have the glassware. The next one here is heavy metals. So heavy metals, it's actually it's lead and arsenic that is specifically found in water that will cause a havoc on our gut. So what we want to try to do is they have filtration systems that you can use. They're the ones you put, fill up in the little container, put it in the fridge. They have the ones that come out of the fridge or the ones that go from underneath the sink. You can use those. The best one to get is a whole home filter. Spend just that little bit of extra money to get the whole home filter, because then everything in your house has been filtered to remove as many toxins and chemicals from your water so that you're getting the proper water inside of our body. Our body is practically, it's like 80% plus is made up of water. So we just gotta make sure we're having the proper water with that as well. So detox to improve your gut. So when we talk about detox, our body actually has organs inside that is actually specifically to detox our body. Well, what happens is sometimes those organs get burdened by the many toxins that we have put inside. So we need to find out some other ways to kind of rejuvenate, kind of jumpstart our detox organs in our body. And a lot of that comes from the advanced plan that we've talked about. The advanced plan really helps to aid in that detoxification process that our body has already built in. Now, if we're already pretty far gone, we do have a couple of different detox programs here. Some very specifically that we have to do testing for to find out what we need to get rid of. And we have some very generic, ones that are very light on the body. There's no issues with, cramping. Some people think when we detox, it's like drinking those drinks and stuff, and we're just like, diarrhea city and stomach's uncomfortable. Like, no, like that, we don't need that kind of a detox. We need more of a light detox or a very specific detox based off of some studies and tests that we need to do. But the first thing is the foods, proper foods in an advanced plan. Now, exercise. We all know Max T3, hopefully. You guys all do. Dr. Troy does them Wednesday nights at 6:30 on Facebook Live, as well as Saturday mornings at 9:30. So you guys just log in. Usually get notifications say, hey, we're live. Hop on that and do a quick 15-minute workout. Chris here has been fantastic. He has been doing every Wednesday and Saturday with us, and he comes back just loving it. And he's excited to come back for those exercises, which has been awesome. Something I actually learned about with exercise is it actually, it improves your digestion, but it's kind of like a massage for your stomach. And I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. So what it does is that your increased oxygen intake in the massaging of the stomach and the intestines from the exercise creates more blood flow down into your gut. We have proper oxygen intake and proper blood flow that goes in our gut. That starts to feed the good bacteria again and starts to replenish that good bacteria. Now, this was one of the exercise things that I did once I got into chiropractic school that helped me lose 50 pounds. So I know it works. I'm a living testimony of it. What Stanford actually did a study on people on goals. So what they did is they studied people who did just exercise by itself was like their main goal, just eating healthy was their main goal, and then one with people doing both of them as their main goal. They found out that when people have exercise and proper eating healthy habits in with that, they actually had exponentially higher results and better improvements overall with sticking with their goals by doing both of them together versus just the one. So it was pretty fascinating. And now think about it, when I implemented the exercise and proper health, that helped me lose 50 pounds within 4 months. So it works. We just got to make sure that we just get moving is what we need to do. If we're used to just sitting in the chair, in our car, go to work, sit in our chair at work, and then from there we get in our car, sit in our car, we go home, sit in a chair at dinner, and then we sit on the couch to watch TV after dinner. How much exercise have we had? None. So all we got to do is do a little bit more walking, walk up a couple downstairs, or hop on the Facebook thing with Dr. Troy. There's a bunch of different things that we can just do to get started and start moving the body. Chiropractic, the best part.
All right, guys. So when it comes to chiropractic, we've covered a lot, and we show a lot of studies that show how the other 4 essentials are really positive with all this stuff. One that we don't hear about too much because we don't have enough funding in chiropractic to do the amount of studies that we need to is what is the impact? But we know it has a vast impact on our overall health and our immunity. And I could stand up in front of you guys and give you literally a slew of studies that shows that if you shrink an inch, then you're more likely to die of heart attack. Okay, why? Because as we compress down, we're compressing the nerves that go to our heart lung function, right? If forward head posture, we covered in our new patient class. What is forward head posture? When you check into a nursing home, they measure this to predict what? When you die, right? So forward head posture is directly linked with your longevity, right? So there's a lot of things, but the question comes down to is why? And I think for our patients, it's pretty easy to understand because they understand that our brain controls all function and it does so by sending the signals down the spine, right? And so when we look at the job of the spine, it's just to house and protect the nervous system and allow us to function and move properly, right? And when things are in normal alignment and things are doing well, we expect good things to happen, right? But what's the big word that we teach in here? It starts with an S. Subluxation. So that's when a bone shifts out of its normal alignment due to traumas. Usually you can think of acute traumas like car accidents and falls, or chronic repetitive things like what? Staring at cell phones and computers all day, right? These forces over time will allow this to shift and it starts to change. It leads to arthritis, degeneration, all of the bad words that nobody wants to hear about, okay? And who is being affected most by the chronic bed posture today? Kids, right? From the time they're literally like old enough to hold something, they have some type of electronic device in their hand, right? It's an iPhone, an iPad, whatever. They're watching movies, they're playing games, they're doing all of these things. Quite frankly, overstimulating the brain of a young child isn't good for them long term. Okay, so there's a lot of things. I always kind of laugh when I think about, like, you take a kid who's grown up on flashing lights and all this stuff. They get to kindergarten, and what does the teacher say? Can you please sit down, sit still, and color and pay attention? And the kid's like, I have never done that before in my life. I've never had to pay attention to anything that I didn't want to pay attention to, right? And so how far behind are we setting that up just from that get-go? Okay, that's my little quick video stuff with all your kids stuff. Okay, now back to the spine. It starts there, and so now these kids, literally from the time that they come out of the womb, are in bad posture. So what are the chances that they're going to grow up and live this great full-fledged life? Right? They're dealing with chronic pain issues by the time they're 10 and 12 years old. We didn't see that stuff until you were 50 before, right? It's an epidemic that's happening, and the spine is there to give us the structure that we need. But when it gets compromised and nothing's done with it, we have problems, right? So when we talk about what is it, function and control, everything, all organs, right? Would anybody like to volunteer to have me cut the nerve bundle going to your heart? No, thank you, because why? What would happen? Not going to work right. I can guarantee you that much, right? So nobody wants that. So if we don't want it to be cut, then we probably don't want it to be compressed and pushed on really hard for a long period of time. And that's what's happening when we get into these forward head posture positions, okay? And it alters the function. It's going to alter digestion. I will tell you, like, we have, just doing chiropractic alone, we have fantastic results with digestive problems with people, right? So most people, when they come in, I had a lady who was on Miralax for like 50 years, and after 6 weeks of being under care, she's going to the bathroom twice a day on her own, no Miralax, right? So it's like you get to the cause of the problem, and then all of a sudden the body starts to do what? Function and heal. Remember what we talked about at the very beginning? It's an inside job, right? Just remove interference and allow the body to do what it exactly wants to do, which is be healthy. Does everybody agree that your body doesn't have a vendetta against you? Okay, sometimes it may feel like it, right? It's like, man, what did I do to deserve this? But if you look back, I can tell you what you did. You did a bunch of bad things, right? That's why you deserve that. And so your body doesn't have a vendetta against you. It really wants to be healthy. It wants to do everything that you want it to do. It just needs to not have interference to allow that to happen. And so when we look at the structure, it's what leads to degeneration and arthritis. Everybody thinks arthritis is an age-related thing, and it's not. Okay, I have an x-ray of a lady who's 85 years old. She's got a perfect neck curve. How much arthritis does she have? 0. Okay, big plump discs, everything. And then I can also show you an x-ray of a 21-year-old with a reversed curve, and guess what? If you looked at those two x-rays, you're saying this lady's 85 and she's 21. This lady's 21 and she's 85. Okay, it's not predictable of that. Okay, if you have good structure, your body it's not going to degenerate. Again, it doesn't have vendetta against you. It didn't wake up and say, what can I do to irritate me today? Right? I'm just going to put a big old bone spur on there and see what happens. It doesn't do that. There's a compromise. The body adapts. That adaptation is something called arthritis, and we don't like the long-term outcomes. So if we don't like those outcomes, then what should you do? Something to change it, right? That would be a good idea, right? And that's what we try to do and why we're trying to help people fix their posture. What are warning signs that we have neurologic things? We've talked a lot about the gut health stuff, and that's all included, but we also have things like headaches, menstrual problems, high blood pressure, depression, food intolerances, acid reflux, lots of different things. We have our big drug freedom trash can right over there, and guess what? That's a really cool day when patients have been here and they're like, hey, you know what? I went to my doctor and my blood pressure's been normal, so they want to go ahead and take me off of my Hytrin. So guess what do? We come in here, they throw their empty bottle in there, we take a picture, we have a big celebration, because is that reason to celebrate? Absolutely. Like drug freedom that's exactly what it is. It's freedom that my body's actually working normally again, right? And so as people are doing that and they get to put those in there, we get to have celebrations with them all the time. It says, yes, this is what we're after, right? Remember, people come here with back pain, but what they got was less back pain and a whole lot better quality of life and health. That's what it's really about, okay? Our gut health perspective, so this is something that we have for people as well, and it includes kind of a review of everything that we covered today. It's going to talk to you a lot about the supplements. It's going to talk about our whole 5 essential approach and how it improves gut health, okay? So if you guys want one of those, we have one of those as well. So what are your action steps? This is important because if you guys don't have action steps in place, then what this becomes tonight is a jacuzzi experience. How many of you guys have sat in a jacuzzi and you feel all warm and fuzzy, and then you get out of the jacuzzi and what? How do you feel the next day? The same, like nothing happened, right? It's a jacuzzi experience, right? And a lot of people have those. They come to these things, or you go to a Tony Robbins seminar and you get all fired up, and yes, Tony Robbins, he's the man. And then I go home and I do everything that I did before I went to Tony Robbins and nothing changes, right? So you have to take action somehow. And maybe for some people, it's just like, hey, I got to get serious about getting rid of all that processed food out of my diet. What can I do to help with that? Maybe I haven't exercised in the last 37 years and I have to do something to start moving, even if it's just to go walk around my neighborhood at night, right? But we have to do something to make us different, and it has to start when? Yeah, tonight, right? I do something tonight. I'm going to go home. I'm going to throw out all of my bad trans fat oils, my Wesson oils, my canola oils, because we know it's inflammatory to the body and it's terrible, right? So I'm going to go home. I'm going to give them to my neighbor if I don't like the neighbor very much, right? So, don't do that, just kidding, okay? So do the right things and start to take action steps. If you need help with that, that's what we're here for, okay? You guys have your nutritional consults. We have all these things that we built into your programs to help you continue to take those steps. It's up to you to take them, though. Again, there's a lot of smart dead people in the world. They knew better, but they didn't take action, right? Like McDonald's, I can't think of a better example. Raise your hand if you think McDonald's is a healthy place to eat. Not a single person ever raises their hand. What's the only restaurant in the world that has 1 trillion served underneath its sign? McDonald's. Do you see the conflict there? Nobody thinks it's healthy, but they've served more meals than any other restaurant chain in the entire world. So it's not about knowledge, it's implementation of knowledge that makes a difference. Okay, so with your cookbooks, all the things, the resources that you've had, these are things that are going to allow you to make those changes. Okay, upcoming events, we're getting back into, now that we're getting some release and we can actually have some stuff with, as long as we're social distancing and doing the right things. So we'll be looking for more events starting to come. We do have an opportunity on Wednesday, so in 2 days, as our next free scan day. So if you guys know people that are like, hey, this person needs to come in and just get checked, you can schedule them. They can come in, they'll get their free computer scan, they get a consultation, find out what's going on health challenge-wise. Just see if it's a good fit for them, okay? If they say, yeah, this sounds great, but I'm not interested, then they leave, and we haven't got to the point of locking doors yet, okay? I'm not saying we can't go there. No, I'm just kidding. But the bottom line is like, that's our opportunity. We're on a mission to help our society be better, and that starts with not only all the things we do, but it's also like, you guys know and care about people that we don't know, and that's a great opportunity for you to help those people out as well, right? And so be connected with us. If you're not on our Facebook page, please just go on it and like it, because we're streaming this live on Facebook. We didn't tell any of you guys that because we wanted you to show up. No, I'm just kidding. But the bottom line is that we do things all the time. We post videos. You see Dr. Troy's workouts, and you can go watch old workouts. If you're like, man, I can't make Wednesday night, but I can do Thursday. Well, go watch Wednesday night's workout and do it Thursday night, right? It's like, it's great when that content gets put on there, because when does it go away? Never, right? Unless they censor it or whatever, but we're not doing anything that they should censor, right? And so the bottom line is, those are the things that we want to have for you guys, okay? So we're getting finished up here. The next thing for you is to understand, if you guys, when Dr. Troy was just kind of going through the bundles, if there's something that interests you, understand that we do like bundles, and anytime we have an event like this and you attend the event, you can get 10% off of any supplement. So if you know that you need vitamin D, then go get vitamin D and get a discount just for showing up. But our bundles are 20% off on those bundles. So if you said, hey, when I was looking at that, I felt like I was the middle one, then that's a great opportunity for you to go save some money for that. It's not an obligation. You can come get it at any time. We're just telling you that tonight we're doing that. For the Facebook people, if they put it in the comments, we'll honor that through tomorrow for them since they weren't here tonight. But for you guys, it's one of those things like if you tell us tonight, like, yeah, I'm in, I need to do it, we'll honor that for you, okay? So any questions from anybody before we end? It does. It does. So the question was, does collagen help the gut? And collagen is a good thing for a lot of processes in our body. Everybody knows, I think most people know it's good for our cartilage and our joints and stuff like that, but it actually is part of, especially like our line of those collagen products, they have the multi-collagen one with the different varieties in it, and those different things allow for different things to happen. It's not just one, you're not just getting collagen 2, you're getting 1, 2, 5, 7, 10, like those things, and each one of those actually has some benefits for that. But saying that, I wouldn't tell you, like, if you had a bad leaky gut problem, I wouldn't just say, hey, just take collagen and everything's going to be fine, because you probably need something in addition to, but it's definitely good for your health. Like bone broth and stuff like that, people that actually make, get your old soup bones, and you put it in your crock pot with a little apple cider vinegar and do that. That's really healthy for the gut too, as a way of helping to rebuild that, because you get the collagen and the nutrients out of the bone marrow. That's really good and regenerative for those things as well. We did that for a long time, but I'll tell you what, after a little while, it's like I went home and we just had a crock pot cooking literally for like 3 months straight. And we just put new bones and add water and add some spices and different things to it. And you come home and it's like, I do not want to smell that again, and that's when we shut it down for a little bit. So it's nice when you have like powders and things that you don't have to go through all that. But I will still say that it's probably always better to do the real thing than it is to get the supplement version of that. So, any other questions? All right, you guys have anything to add?
Sorry, Florida by good collagen.
Yes, it's very important.
We all know my experience.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, that's true with almost all supplements, you guys. Some people come in and say, well, I didn't want to spend $22 on your multivitamin. I went to Costco and I got the Mega Jug multivitamin for $18 and it lasts me 17 years. There's not a single good thing in that multivitamin. I'm not just slamming Costco. It's just like those kind of conventional commercial grade things. They're all synthetic. They're full of chemicals. If you want to see something disturbing, just Google Geritol X-rays, and it shows like old people that take Geritol and they take X-rays, and it's like, here's Monday's Geritol, here's Tuesday's Geritol, here's Wednesday's, and it's literally in their intestine, and it looks exactly like what? The pill they took, right? It didn't break down at all. If they were to go through their feces when they went to the bathroom, what would they find? Geritol, it's a great way to not spend more money. Just go through, wash it off, and take it again, right? Maybe the third time through, enough acid will break it down. I don't know. I'm not willing to do the experiment myself, right? So, but the bottom line is quality of supplements is hugely important. So many times people are like, hey, if I can save $3, I will. But if it was 10% effective, was it worth spending $3 more to get something that was 100% effective? And unfortunately, that's the case pretty much across the board when it comes to that stuff, okay? So that's why I always tell people, you don't have to buy our stuff, but whatever you're buying, you better do the research to know it's high quality, it's absorbable, they're not using chemical binders, all of those things to where it doesn't go in Geritol and come out Geritol, okay? So any other questions? All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming. Hopefully you guys got some good stuff tonight. And if you need help with anything, understand that that's why we're all here. So tonight's about learning and start to take some action steps. You're going to run into roadblocks and some hurdles along the way. That's okay. That's what we're here for, to help you get over those. Okay. But if you don't ask us or you don't tell us about it, we don't know. We're not mind readers. So we need to have that basic information so that we know how we can help you. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.